Hi, today we are discussing creation of repository and integration services. These two are main services to work with the client tools. So now I am creating a new repository service and integration service. So to open this window, first go to Start, our Programs, Informatica Power Center. In Power Center, we have two parts. One is services, other one is client. The services we are using for administration and the client we are using for developer, means developing. So Informatica contain two types of jobs, that is administration role and developer role. These are the two types of jobs we have in Informatica. So first we have to create the services in the administration part. Not only services, we are creating users groups and user privileges, group privileges, repository, integration service and other services also we have in services part. So this is the administration job. The administrator people will create the services. They will handle the administration related things. And next one is client. This is the client part. The developer role will start from the client part. Here we have different type of tools: Power Center, Repository Manager, Power Center Designer, Power Center Workflow Manager and Power Center Workflow Monitor. These four are the different client tools. The developer role will start from the Power Center Designer. So before doing this, before going to client part, first we have to create the services, repository and integration services. These two are main services. So now we are creating repository. We'll see how we are creating and what are the requirements we have. Okay. So automatically it will open this window. Just log in into this window. Okay. So automatically you will get this page. Go to create repository service. So we can create a number of repository service and integration services also. In real time, based on the client requirement, they will create like 2 or 3 repository services. Production completely, they'll create separate repository for production. For development and testing, based on their requirement, they will create 1 or 2 repositories. Development 1, testing and production, 3 repositories. So now we are creating a new repository. After creation of repository, we'll see how we are creating integration service. Okay. This is new repository. Now I am creating REP 1. So enter any service name here. The location is by default. You don't change any location. Path here. The license also here. This is the Informatica license. Here we have only 1. And node also 1. Node nothing but it's a physical machine. So now we installed Informatica in my system. So my mission is a node for this Informatica. In real time we have 1 or more nodes. So based on the requirement we have to select other nodes also. Right? And next, database type Oracle. So here I am creating a user for this repository. So after creation of repository, we are configuring to client. In that client, we are importing the sources, targets, and we are preparing different mappings, sessions, workflows, different things. Not only those developing things, here we are creating user groups, we are giving user privileges, group privileges. So this entire metadata information we are storing in the database user. So for that user, for this repository, we are creating one user in Oracle database. Okay, so that's why I selected database type is Oracle. The code page is by default, don't change anything. It will convert the character to ASCII. Next, connection string. Connection string means its database name, Oracle DB. This is also we are giving at the installation time of Oracle. Next, we have to create one user in the database. So connect to the Oracle database, then we can create a new user for this repository. So go to start and run here SQL Plus to connect to the Oracle. Click on OK. So connect to sysuser first, sys@Oracle DB as sysdba. The password also sys here. So now we connected to the sysuser, system user in Oracle. So now I am creating a new user for this repository. So this is the syntax for to create a new user. Create user username. REP1 is the username identified by password. I'm giving same username and password. So now created a new user. After creation of the user, we have to give the privileges to the user. Grant, connect. So if you want to give the complete DBA privileges, you can. Otherwise, you can give the particular privileges also. Grant, I am giving total DBA privileges to the user. Grant DBA to the ref1. Grant DBA to rep1. Then connect to the rep1 user. It's connected. So now we are using this user for Informatica. Okay, user creator. First connect to the system user, then create a new user. After creation of that user, give that privileges to the user. Create user username identified by password. Grant DBA to username. After creation of the user, just connect to that user and select from the tab. Means just we are checking any tables or any other views or tables are available in the database or not, we are checking. So no rows selected means there is no records, means there is no tables and no views, nothing is there because that is a new user. So we are going to use that user to create this repository. REP1, REP1. So next, we are creating a new repository content, and here we have two options. Create a new repository content, do not create a repository content. The first option we are using when you are creating a new repository, so at that time you have to select the first option to create a new repository. So when you are creating a new repository, automatically it will create the 510 contents. Contents means the combination of tables and views. These 510 contents it will create in the DB user. So that's why we are preparing a new user for this repository. So one more option we have, do not create repository content. So already you are working with one project. So already we have one repository. We are loading daily, we are loading metadata into that repository. Okay. So in the project, in the real time, so every time we are taking the backup of the repository, right? So if you want to load that backup, if you want to restore that backup, then create a new repository without contents. So backup means already it contains the 510 tables and views. So that's why we are creating a new repository without contents, because already backup have that contents. So after creation of this repository, we are restoring that content. Okay, so at that time don't create the repository content, means new repository will create but without contents. Okay, these two is the advanced options, create as global repository and enable version control. We will discuss in the next class. Okay, so now we are creating this repository. We entered username, the service name, license, node, database type is Oracle, code page is by default, connection string is Oracle DB, that is database name, DB user, already we created one user in the database Oracle, so that user we entered here, username and password. And now we are creating a new repository. Just enable the first option, then click on create. So now it's creating the repository, means it will start to create the contents. See, it's creating tables and views. Total 510 combination of tables and views it will create. The metadata information we are storing in these tables and views. Okay, so total tables and views created. Just refresh the page, go to administration console. So now we have repository rep1. So I'm checking whether it created or not the 510 content in the database. Select start from tab, 510 contents. So these are the views and tables. See, tables and views. Okay, so repository service is completed, it's running properly, but here we have to change one option to create integration service. So that is exclusive to normal. Exclusive mode we are using to take the backup or to delete the contents of the repository. Okay, if you want to work with the client, so we have to change this exclusive mode into the normal. Then only we can create the integration services, then only we can work with the client tools. Okay, by default it will create with the exclusive mode. So now I am changing this exclusive mode into normal. Edit, exclusive to normal, click on OK. Click on yes. So automatically it will disable and it will enable the repository service. Okay. So after this we have to create one integration service. The integration service is a mediator in between the repository database and client tools. Yep. A repository is created with the normal mode. Currently it's running properly. Right? So now I'm creating an integration service on top of this repository. So go to create, click on integration service, enter any name. I'm giving int1 integration 1. So the location is by default, don't change any location. The license here also default, we have only one license. Node, one node, select that node. And next, associated repository service. So associated repository service means on which repository we are creating this integration service. So now we are creating on REP1. Just select REP1 here. On top of that we are creating this integration service. So when you are working with REP1 in the client side, you have to select this integration service to communicate with REP1 database and client request. Okay. So here we have to enter the repository username, but by default after creation of the Informatica, after installation of the Informatica, you will get only one user, is the super user, that is administrator. If you want to use any other users or repository or any other users, you have to create those users first. You have to give all the privileges to that user. Then only we can use that users to create integration service to perform any other operations. So now we are not created any users. So that's why I'm using administrator user to create this integration. Okay. Administrator. So same password. Capital A with administrator and password is also same. So this is ASCII mode to convert the data from character to ASCII. Click on create. So before click on that, just I am repeating the steps. Service name, license, node, associated repository service. Now we are creating this repository in REP1. That's why we'll selected that REP1. And repository username is the administrator. Administrator is a super user here. Data movement mode is ASCII. Then click on create. Enable this one. Click on OK. Now it's creating the integration service. Like this, we can create multiple integration service on single repository. For example, in real time, you are working as a developer, me are working as a developer, some other people also working as a developers. So you are running the mappings, me are running the mappings, means we are loading the data from source to targets. So we are working with millions of records in the real time. So when you are loading the data from source to target, when you are executing the mappings, so some mappings it will take time to complete the execution because of the data load. So at that time the integration services will busy. It will become slow. So at that time you can select other integration service to work with the repository database for the client request. So because of this reason, in real time also they are creating multiple integration service for single repository. Okay. So here we created repository and integration services. So these are the two services important administration part. So after creation of repository and integration, we have to configure these services into the client tools. So this is the first class to create the repository and integration in administration. Other than this, we have other advanced concepts here: creation of users, groups, taking backup and restore of the repository, and global and version control also. Okay, so the next class is configuring the repository to the client tools.